Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Thursday, May 9th, 2013. This evening's agenda, we'll start with a call to order and a review of some minutes. We have two public hearings with National Grid. And at 7:15, we will continue a discussion that we began a couple of weeks ago with the Plymouth County to analyze our relationship and to talk about the future relationship. At 7:45, we will have recognition for some of our public safety personnel whom we recognized previously in a public session, but we're going to bring them up to give them formal recognition for their help during the Boston Marathon bombing. I will begin the process of determining how wastewater betterments are calculated, and this will be the first of what I hope would be a series of discussions across many different departments over the next few months. We will talk about the Recreation Park Drive, and we have some discussion on deeds and closing documents, the Beale Street Regulatory Agreement, and an easement at Iron Horse Park. I would also, at the end of the meeting, we intend to go into executive session for purposes of discussing litigation, real estate, and labor negotiations. But before I begin the meeting, I would just like to draw everyone's attention to an article in the Hingham Journal in the Your News section. Our newest colleague, Paul Healy, his son, who was a cadet in the Hoya Battalion. Now, I know about the Hoya Battalion because it originated at Georgetown, where I went, but it now includes students from American, George Washington, and Catholic University, where Cadet Dominic Healy now attends. And it says in the article that he had the great opportunity, and it's a great picture, Paul, of meeting Leon Panetta, the former Secretary of Defense. So I promised Paul he'd get an extra copy of that for his.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulate Dominic for us, if you would.
Well, indeed. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any corrections to the minutes of April 11th?
Already did. I think we did the 11th.
Did we do 11th? Did you do them?
Yeah.
They haven't been voted.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
they haven't been voted. That's why.
Right.
Okay, everybody all set? Okay, could I have a motion?
I move we approve the minutes of April 11th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. This evening, we have a public hearing with the National Grid, and Dennis Regan, who is a frequent visitor to us, is here this evening, accompanied by Harry Sylvester of our Department of Public Works. Dennis, if you could introduce yourself and discuss the issues before us, if you would.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Regan, and I'm the permit representative from National Grid. And I'm not sure which is the first one we're going to.
The first one we had is Central Street, 138.
Okay.
That one?
Thank you. National Grid respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain approximately 350 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main in Central Street, Hingham, from the existing 2-inch gas main at house number 138 southerly to the end of the main at house number 157, all of which to replace and abandon the existing 2-inch main in Central Street.
Any questions? We'll start with Ms. Lauder, if I may.
How many houses are impacted here? Or are you doing this just because it's old or to provide new service?
This is a bare steel replacement project. So when this gas main was installed, there was no protection, no cathodic protection on the main. So we're installing plastic main, which will be protected.
Okay, why did you break these into two different ones?
They arrived in two different packets.
Never
I
mind.
was getting a push.
Okay.
I was getting a push from somebody in the room to get these delivered here.
I can't imagine who,
And-
Dennis,
and,
that would be.
They came to me in two separate packets, so that's why it's. That's why.
Here I thought it was going to be some exotic technical reason.
It was
kind of it is.
It was the push.
If I may clarify this, most of Central Street's already been replaced with a
Yeah.
plastic main, and there's two sections that haven't been replaced yet, as yet. And being that was on the construction list, National Grid decided to go forward and replace these two sections to ensure that the whole main on Central Street is plastic now, or at least from Elm Street to Main Street.
That's it?
Okay.
Thanks.
I have no questions.
Wow. I don't either.
Wow.
That's because, Dennis, you're doing good work for us these
It's early.
days.
I
Okay.
have one curiosity question, since
Sure.
no one else has questions. How much does it cost you on a is it per running foot or lineal foot when you do this? This is just really a curiosity question more than anything.
I don't know what it costs.
Okay.
At different areas, different prices.
And that's pretty much the same with every utility for the most part, although they have base costs, but they do vary depending on the terrain that they have to go through.
I think normally it's per foot, I just don't know what the figures are.
I was just curious.
Quick follow-up.
Mr. Healy does have a question.
Will this be the last bit of gas work done on Central Street then?
I'm not sure of the whole of Central Street where the plastic main is and where the bare steel is. What we've been trying to work with Mr. Sylvester to help replace the aged gas mains before repaving gets done. So if that's the way the system usually works here, that's what service we're trying to provide.
So this is a schedule, basically? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions from the public? There being none, I'll entertain a motion. Ms.
Okay.
Lot-
I move to approve the petition of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 350 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main in Central Street from the existing 2-inch gas main at house number 138 Southerly to the end of the main at house number 157, all of which is to replace and abandon the existing gas main in Central Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Dennis, for the next request?
National Grid respectfully requests your consent to install and maintain approximately 400 feet more or less of 2-inch gas main in Central Street, Hingham, from the existing 2-inch gas main at Bradford Road southerly to the existing 2-inch gas main at Weston Road, all of which to replace and abandon the existing 2-inch gas main in Central Street.
Mr. Healy, you want to take a minute to?
Yes, if I could.
Quick,
Thank
okay.
you.
While we're waiting, Dennis, when you abandon, that means you build around it, as we've discussed before, and leave the pipes that are there. You don't always remove those unless
That's correct.
unless you need the space, I would assume.
We don't remove it.
Okay, when it comes off the books, this is another curiosity question. Do you know when it comes off the rate books for, I would assume?
I would imagine when we gas up the new main, when the
Okay,
new.
so once it goes live, and you disconnect the other, okay. Okay,
Well, some of them might have come off the books a little while ago, because a few of them are more than a few decades old.
okay.
No, it'd be-
Well, if there's somebody, if they've been replaced by something else, but if it's live, I would assume it's still on the books, capable of earning rates, and,
Yes.
but when it's being transferred over, as in this case.
Or it could be at the end of the project, because normally when the project is being done, there's 2 live gas mains until all the services are tied over. And when all the services, existing services are tied over, then the existing old main is abandoned in place.
Well, since Irma and I worked for a company that our public utilities commissions used to regularly be concerned about when we did that, because otherwise you're earning on both pieces of plant if they're both live. So at some point it has to come off, and I just want to make sure, that's why I asked the question, when does that happen? Usually there's a process in place.
Process.
Most jobs don't run much longer than a month.
Okay,
I
so
would
it's
think.
within 30 days?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would think
okay. Okay. Paul?
Does the pressure in the pipe change at all as a result of the installation of the plastic?
No. This is elevated pressure mains that are all on the South Shore. And testing is done on the mains before, to make sure there's no leaks before we put the gas into the new mains. And the pressure is all the same. That's why, when we're in the high-pressure area, we can feed all these houses with a 2-inch main in most places.
Okay. Is there any reason why some of the houses are yellow and others are not?
I have no idea.
Are there going to be any new residential hookups in connection with this, or?
What new residential hookup, everybody was notified what we were doing, and it will be up to those residents to communicate with marketing and sales as far as new installations.
I take it the road's going to remain open during this construction job?
Absolutely.
Details and the like will be provided by the company?
If we get permission tonight to relay this main, there'll be a pre-construction meeting with Mr. Sylvester and the police department. They'll decide what time we're going to start, what time we're going to finish, how many police officers on detail. We keep plates handy, so if we happen to be digging in somebody's in front of the driveway, and for that particular day, somebody has to get in and get out, that's made possible immediately.
How deep are these pipes?
3 feet.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Lara?
Yep, I'm good.
Okay. When do these projects start? When do you expect them to start? Dennis?
I just spoke with Mr. Sylvester, and he expects to start them very soon.
Okay. I don't see the number very soon on a calendar. Can you?
Middle of next week, possibly.
Okay, that's-
Towards the end of next week.
That is very soon. Okay, now it's clear to me, Harry, within 10 days, that's, okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the petition of National Grid to install and maintain approximately 400 feet, more or less, of 2-inch gas main on Central Street from the existing 2-inch gas main at Bradford Road southerly to the existing 2-inch gas main in Weston Road, all of which is to replace and abandon the existing gas main in Central Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A lot of questions.
Okay. About a month or so ago, the Board of Selectmen had a discussion, or began a discussion, with the Plymouth County officials to discuss the future relationship with Plymouth County. There have been a number of proposals that have come before the board, and before any decision is made, we would like to study all sides of the issues as they present themselves to us before we come to a conclusion. And because the schedule was a problem last time, we invited some of the Plymouth County executives to come back to continue the discussion for the next half hour. Hopefully, the discussion won't take that long and we'll have an opportunity for questions. So I'd like to welcome the chair of the Charter Commission, is John Donahue. Thank you. And Bob was, I'm going to, thank you, Wisketa. And the Register of Deeds, John Buckley. And, of course, an old friend, County Treasurer Tom O'Brien. I believe you have I'd like to invite you up, if that's appropriate, all of you. If I understand that the chair of the Charter Commission would have a few comments to start.
If it's all right, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to do a quick introduction. We'll go to the Charter Commission, we'll go to the Register, and I'll wrap things up.
Fine.
Trying to keep within your time frame.
Thank you.
And keep within the space that you have available here for all of us. I don't want to crowd in too much.
That's okay. We can catch them on camera.
Ellen Allen is also here. We didn't,
Oh, how are you? Thank you.
And thank you very much. I was going to mention that, and to let you know, the Plymouth County Commissioners are on their way. They had a meeting in the town of Carver, and they're racing, following the speed limit, of course, to be here in time to answer any questions you may have of them. Let me first thank the board for the invitation and to Ms. Foley for her diligence in making sure that we were here in attendance. Sometimes I'm very busy and not easy to reach, and she's very persistent in making sure that our calendars work. Also, congratulations to Mr. Healy on his election. I never know in these circumstances as an elected official to offer congratulations or condolences. So in this case, I'll offer them both with heartfelt and sincere consideration for the years ahead of you in your continued public service. Also, I've always sensed an affinity between the chairman and myself, and I've been wondering a long time. I know it's our debonair good looks. We clearly have that in common. But I might
Winning
just...
me over, Tom.
I know. Well, I might just say, Mr. Chairman, Hoya Saxa. I did not realize that you were a graduate of Georgetown, as am I. Probably just maybe 1 or 2 years after you, I graduated. And I'm also pleased to hear about the Hoya squad, which I'm familiar with as well. So now I know what we have in common.
Okay, very good.
That being said, Plymouth County has a long and storied history with the town of Hingham, which we look forward to continuing and celebrating. And I believe after tonight's presentation, you'll be excited about that relationship. You folks know that Hingham actually chose to be in Plymouth County. You folks were one of the few communities that actually had a choice. You may recall, not from personal experience, that in 1643, Hingham was included within Suffolk County. You enjoyed that period of time for a while. However, you and the town of Hull in 1793, a few short years later, you petitioned actually the legislature to remain in Suffolk County while your neighbor Cohasset petitioned the legislature to join Norfolk County. However, you weren't happy in Suffolk County, and you said to yourselves, where would we rather be? And you decided that in 1803, Hingham would rather be no place else than in Plymouth County, America's hometown, birthplace to this great nation. And we welcomed you with open arms. There's a lot that happened over those years that I'd like to go into, but time is limited. I won't. Other than to say that in 1976, the additions to the Hingham Courthouse were completed, and some of you may or may not be aware, but in 1978, the town of Hingham partnered with the County of Plymouth, at your request, to acquire 31.5 acres of conservation land off Wanders Drive, which we share today as co-owners. So we are proud partners with you in your efforts to keep open space alive and well here in the town of Hingham. Interestingly enough, in 2000, Plymouth County opened the Registry of Deeds satellite office in Rockland, a mere 1.5 miles from Queen Anne's Corner. My goal here today, and our goal collectively, is to talk about Plymouth County, what we do for Hingham, and what we're doing in the future, and answer questions you may have. There was a comment about studying Plymouth County and what it can do, and I would posit to this group that that study has already occurred. A few short years ago, the electorate of Plymouth County elected a Plymouth County Charter Commission, 19 duly elected or appointed officials to do exactly what you're suggesting needs to be done. Study Plymouth County, determine its merits, determine its future. Those 19 bipartisan members did just that. And here today to talk briefly about that and the results of that study, which ultimately concluded not only is Plymouth County strong and vibrant, but needs to grow and become even stronger, are the chairman of that Charter Commission, John Donahue, and a member of that Charter Commission since its inception, Bob Wisgerda. I'll turn the microphone over to them and remind them, of course, of the time constraints that we're under in their presentation. I think what might work is John here, and Bob, if you slide that chair to the end, I'll coordinate the microphone and try to keep this moving along. So to my immediate left, John Donahue, and to his left, Bob Wisgerda. Gentlemen.
Welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to address you. It's a hard act to follow, Mr. O'Brien, so I won't try. I will just pick up where he left off. As he mentioned, we studied this issue for 2 years now, 19 members of the Charter Commission. What we did essentially was break down into 5 subcommittees, and in my notes, they were to study traditional county government, for example, Norfolk, Suffolk, Norfolk, Bristol, and Dukes counties, to study augmented or special charter types of forms of forms of county government, including Barnstable and Nantucket counties. We also looked at reestablished or regional entities such as COGS out in western Massachusetts. Franklin County, after it was dissolved, created a regional form of government. So did Hampshire County. We also looked at the abolished county governments, which were numerous back in the 90s. Essex County, Suffolk County, Worcester County, Middlesex, Hampshire, Franklin, Berkshire, and Hampden counties. And finally, we had a subcommittee that studied Plymouth County government itself. And we asked ourselves the existential question: should Plymouth County government exist or not? And after considerable study for over a year, we concluded by not a unanimous vote, but a significant majority vote of the commissioners that Plymouth County not only serves a real purpose to the citizens and the taxpayers of the county, but it could be enhanced and improved. And that's what we suggested when we created and crafted legislation, which went before the legislature last year. Unfortunately, it did not get to the ballot as it was intended last November. So we have extended for another 2 years the work that we began, and I'm here, among other things, to ask for your support. We meet once a month, every Tuesday, the first Tuesday of the month. You're welcome to participate. I see Ellen is here. She represents the Plymouth County Advisory Commission. She has been actively involved for over a year now. The county commissioners, who should be here shortly, are also, by virtue of their positions, members of the County Charter Commission. We believe that we can make real significant improvements to the operation of Plymouth County, and we ask for your support.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wisgerda?
Yes, John has pretty well covered some of what I was going to say, basically summarizing how we came into existence in 2010. I just want to emphasize that this committee works so well together. Matter of fact, I had the privilege initially of working with Mr. Harris and was quite impressed with him. The discovery, if you will, fact-finding, if you will, was quite intense. I know myself, there wasn't a week going by that I wasn't either down in Barnstable County attending subcommittee meetings or going to the monthly meeting of the commission. The commission, all of the meetings were posted. For instance, I was elected in the Brockton Ward 1, 3, and West Bridgewater area. I made the effort to let all of the folks in my area know that they're welcome to come to not only the main meetings, but also any of the subcommittee meetings that they may be interested in. At the beginning of every meeting, we devoted at least a half an hour to invite any of the public to come in and speak. Prior to beginning our meeting, they were all open meetings. But as far as the discovery and the fact-finding, this is the first, to be honest with you, public commission that I have served on. But I was quite impressed with all of the folks working very hard together. We didn't always agree on every point, but that's what a commission is supposed to do. In addition to traveling, by the way, we also pull people from out of state to study counties. For instance, we had a few people come up from Connecticut, and I went as far down as Sussex County in Delaware because I have friends and relatives down in that area, and spent quite a few hours studying their form of county government. For whatever reason, I believe it was the first year Mr. Harris had some health issues, and kind of after that, he really hasn't attended the meetings. And I would beg that, hopefully he would have had more information to bring to you if he had attended all of the meetings, because he had, in my opinion, an obligation to represent, and he was elected by the folks in Hingham and to be there at the meetings. Just a comment, and believe me, I have the greatest respect for Mr. Harris. It's in no way putting him down. But as a result of all of this intense discovery, we did come to the conclusion that county government is not only should stay, but is going to be a necessary entity in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one of the interesting points of this is that there were 19 duly elected or appointed people that got in a room. Can you imagine 19 people of divergent opinions agreeing on anything? Some of them came with some preconceived notions. However, after a year and a half of work, their determination, which I believe is information for you and at your disposal, was to continue county government and to make it stronger. I would posit, and these two gentlemen could confirm, that information is available for you. They would love to come back and present it to you. It's hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours of research that will save you the time from doing any more work, because they've done all the work, and they've traveled around the country, as you've heard, to learn that this is the trend, this is the future. So thank you, gentlemen, very much. At this point, I think just to keep things moving along, one of the bright lights of the county are our Registry of Deeds operations. One of the advantages of the county is it keeps it local to you folks. It makes you available, and it available to you. You have local say over its operations, its expenses, and its resources. We have one of the finest, if not the finest, Register of Deeds. He's here to talk just briefly about that. I think your time is about 4 minutes, Mr. Buckley. But he wanted to let you folks know how valuable it is. And please understand, you're part of something bigger than just this community, and you appreciate and your neighbors appreciate that effort and that cooperation. And as a result, we have the Registry of Deeds. And again, your member on the advisory board gets to determine how Mr. Buckley gets to spend his resources. Mr. Buckley?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Registrar of Deeds for Plymouth County, and at the last meeting, former Selectman, now Laura Burns, suggested that I come and talk a little bit about the Registry of Deeds. It's a major function of Plymouth County. The Registry of Deeds is the recording agency for the county. It is a county agency. It represents 27 communities of real estate. Every single document that gets recorded within our borders get recorded with us. It goes back historically. I'm not going to go into as much detail as the treasurer did, but back in the 1620s, the colonials decided they ought to have a land record system. Second colonial governor, Governor Bradford, was the first Register of Deeds, writing down all the documents. They decided it would be in writing and it would be kept in a central place for the entire colony. That expanded in 1685 to a countywide operation. It is a millions and millions of documents over the years, plans, everything related with real estate, as I said. Our main office is in Plymouth, at Obery Street in Plymouth, next to the courthouse, new courthouse. We have a satellite office in Rockland, over on Hingham Street in the AAA Plaza, and a satellite office in Brockton. Plymouth County is unique in terms of its location of its main county seat. Most other counties in Massachusetts have a more centrally located registry. Obviously, Suffolk is Boston, Norfolk is Dedham, and things like that. Barnstable is in the middle of the Cape. The county decided many years ago that the best way to service the public was to have two small satellite offices to allow people to come in and ask questions, to allow people to come in and get copies of the deeds and conduct real estate closings on that site. There have been great services to the people of Plymouth County. And I just have to say, a number of years ago, a couple of the commissioners weren't so hot on continuing the Rockland office. We had a deluge of letters from local businesses, real estate firms, and others that supported the maintaining of the Rockland satellite. The member of the advisory board at the time, Laura Burns, stood very strong with us in making sure the advisory board didn't support the then commissioner's decision to abolish that satellite, and I think it's been a great service for the northeast portion of Plymouth County. The registry is a very complicated legal process to record documents and preserve them for the future. I know my minutes are very short, but basically a document comes to the counter, gets assigned a book and page number, gets assigned some general index information. It goes off to another process where it gets scanned. It gets off to another process where the indexing of the document is much more refined, so people can find those documents in the future. It then gets microfilm preserved for the future in the event of a disaster or business interruption. And it then goes back to the individual party on the recorded side of land. There's a far more complicated side of the registry called the registered side of the land. It's called the Torin system, based on an Australian ship captain system of a ship log. Every single document that comes in gets located on a certificate, and the originals get kept forever. We have very, very complicated processes. We have a lot of people come in. We have a system that people can get access online to our records called Title View. People from all over the world can access those records, including the indexes all the way back to the 1900s It will be going back to 1685. We also accept, as part of the recordings, take a surcharge on community preservation funds. I know Hingham is a Community Preservation Act community. And we've also been very innovative. And I think we've been innovative in great part because we've had the flexibility as a county. And the reason we have the satellites is because we were a county and we were able to make that decision on our own. We were the second registry in Massachusetts to accept documents through the internet. It's called electronic recording, and I think that has modernized the registry significantly. Other registries have visited us and follow the processes that we've developed and model themselves on ours. We're very fortunate that we have a new registry building. When I was elected, the building was over on Russell Street in Plymouth. It was a beautiful building in its day, 100 years old, technology and efficient, handicapped, inaccessible, and we were able to, through a bond based on dedicated revenues at the registry, to build that building, which is a building that'll be there for the next 100 years. I can go into much more detail. We do a series of operational tours. Real estate agents, lawyers, and everyone comes down. Jack Conway, God rest his soul, was the first individual that called me after we built the new building and asked if he could bring down a bunch of his agents to do a tour of the registry. But we basically can take you through all of the processes along the way. So I offer that to you in the future if any of you would choose to do that. So with that, I'll be available for questions.
Okay, thank you, John.
And actually, we're hoping you don't mind just staying right there, because there might be some questions afterward. You can come and tour my offices. It doesn't take an hour. 10 minutes is plenty, although I'd love to sit with you. Next document I'm passing out to the board and to Ms. Foley as well is instructive, I think. We all know the economic challenges that we faced in fiscal year '09 with the Great Recession. And we all expected that revenues were down in every level of government. We expected that our levels of government, with the exception of our home communities, would do more with less. And we expected our home communities to have their budgets grow because they were on the front lines. They were the ones that had to provide service. However, as you can tell from this chart, and it's interesting, if you're a fiscal conservative, county government is for you. Because what you can see is that county government did exactly that. We made more and did more with less. It's interesting to note this is a cumulative chart going to 2009, but you can see the only level of government that is spending less today than it did in 2009, whether that's the town, the county, the state, or the federal government, is the county of Plymouth. We took this off of actual expenditures, so there's a misperception out there that county government is not fiscally responsible. I think this chart is very instructive as to the simple fact that that's not the case. A quick quiz for you. It's like the pop quiz. However, you don't need to have the answers. Everyone knows what they pay in federal taxes. For fiscal year 2012, the tax rate was between 10% and 35%. Everyone knows what they pay in state taxes. For fiscal year 12, it was 5.3%. The average family in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts paid $2,078 to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Everybody knows what they paid in town taxes. Here in Hingham for fiscal year 12, your tax rate per thousand was $11.89. But very few people, particularly in Plymouth County, know how much they pay in direct taxation for the operation of Plymouth County government. So I go around and I ask people, after John Buckley has done such an exceptional job explaining what the Registry of Deeds does, what do you think the value of county government is just for the registry alone to be? The guesses that I get back are oftentimes in the high hundreds. You would probably not be surprised to learn, however, that here in the town of Hingham, on next year's assessment, Hingham residents per person are going to pay $5.36 per person per year. Now, the question was asked, okay, that's per person. What about per taxpayers? So we did an analysis on equalized valuation, which is the best we could do, and it comes out to be $11.90 per taxpayer in the town of Hingham per year, less than lunch at Tosca, The Snug, Wahlburgers, or a large pepperoni pizza at Crow Point Pizzeria. Per person, per year. I suggest that's a significant bargain to the residents of the town of Hingham, alone for the Registry of Deeds. However, your point is a very good one. What else do we do? So, keeping my eye on the time and respect for our first responders and public safety officials that are here. You've heard about the Registry of Deeds. I would suggest that alone is worth that value. However, we own and maintain 3 district courthouses, Brockton, Wareham, and Hingham. Absolutely. Please do not buy into the myth, the suggestion, that if the county were not sustaining that operation, that that courthouse would continue to exist. It would not, plain and simple. Now, we've had conversations, as have others, with your public safety officials and with your chief. It's very hard to estimate what the value of that is to the town of Hingham. However, it is our estimate after those conversations that with extra travel, manpower, and OT, if that courthouse didn't exist, it would cost the town of Hingham an extra $52,000 annually. That's a very conservative estimate, but you guys like numbers, so we're going to give them to you. In addition to the courthouse, I would suggest, in addition to the public safety officials and others that use it, what about your citizens? What is the cost to them of having to travel farther? This is a decision for the town to make. In addition to the courthouses, we, the county, provide the administration and financial management of the Mayflower Municipal Health Group. What's that worth? I would suggest priceless. However, you folks want numbers, don't you? And you're going to ask us for the best guess and estimate that we can possibly provide. So I have diligently been doing this, and my chairman of my advisory board wants me to make sure I don't spend too much time. But as a result of our efforts, the Mayflower Municipal Health Group has been significantly successful. We appreciate Ted Alexiadis' involvement as well and his advice and counsel. Our administrative costs for that, including our consultant, are $552,310. A similarly sized group here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, for the same service, pays $1,033,174. There is no doubt in my mind that should this not have the involvement and participation of the county and the services of one of the best treasurers in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that cost would double. So conservatively, we say it would go up about $480,000. That cost to the town of Hingham, assuming them as 6% of the county, would be another $24,000 annually. That's what would go up. That's a conservative estimate. No doubt you're getting your money's worth. Parking ticket program. Now, we offer this program as a service to our communities. Some choose to participate, some don't. That's up to our individual towns. It was never intended, when it was created in 1980, to be a moneymaker. It was a service to our communities. However, I'm pleased to report, and I'm very glad to see our first county commissioner arriving, I'm pleased to report that in fiscal year 13, the total cost of that operation was approximately $138,000. The total projected revenue for fiscal 13 is $190,000. We will actually be turning a profit on that operation in fiscal year 13. That sets to rest that particular comment. We also provide bulk purchasing cooperative bids. We provide a fuel oil cooperative bid. We provide a gas and diesel cooperative bid. We provide a public service vehicle bid. We provide a police service vehicle bid. And we provide a fire service equipment bid. That's what we do currently. Of all of those, the town of Hingham chooses, at their own choice, to only participate in the fire service equipment bid. We believe that saves you thousands. You could quantify that better than we could. However, we would suggest that perhaps an analysis of the other bid opportunities may prove to be fruitful for you folks. You may save even more money. It's a service we provide. In fact, we're particularly proud of the police service vehicle bid, which competes against the state police vehicle service bid. So what did one of our local police chiefs do? They went and compared the two and found out that Plymouth County was by far the better of the two, the one that they wanted to participate in. And now we service more than 200 individual municipalities outside of Plymouth County as well that participate in that bid to save thousands of dollars. So we encourage you folks to look at, investigate that. In addition, just keeps going, the list keeps getting better. We provide the operation of a 4-H extension service. You heard testimony about that at your last meeting. Again, Mr. Healy, if that's something you want, you weren't able to be at that meeting, you hadn't yet been elected, we'll make those folks available to you at any point in time. We're trying to quantify that for you folks. It's very hard. Of the 40 programs we run, 7 of them are run here in the town of Hingham. We estimate, and it's an estimation only, that the approximate value of those services to the town of Hingham is $46,000. Interestingly enough, if it didn't have the auspices of the county, the cost of individual family participation would double. In addition to that, we provide the operation and maintenance of a fire control airplane. Now, I'm a little disappointed that it's been made light of, because I believe that's an extremely valuable service that the county provides at an amazingly low cost. It only goes up on Class 4 or Class 5 fire days. In conversations with many of the fire chiefs, they tell us that it is invaluable. And in the town of Hingham, with Wampatuck State Park, 5,000-acre state park, and other significant open space, I believe that it's invaluable to have that up on those days where there's a Class 4 or Class 5 potential fire warning. In addition, we also provide funding support for firefighter training programs, funding support for human service organizations, funding support for local tourism, and serve as a conduit for federal and state grants. In some instances, that can only be done through the existence of a county. Why? Because in the rest of the country, there are 3,143 counties, or county equivalents. A county equivalent is a parish, a borough, or a consolidated city-county. It is clearly the trend to consolidate services, get economies of scale, and effectuate savings. In these difficult economic times, I would suggest to you folks, and to anybody who would like to ask, that county government is exactly the level of government you want providing those services. Why? Because we can harness our resources, bring people together, bring neighboring communities together, and save you money and provide services that wouldn't otherwise be available to your residents. I have even more to say. I won't, because I'm looking at the time and cognizant of the questions. I will, however, provide you with a copy of our most recent budget. I want to commend this new group of commissioners who have been incredibly proactive and understand the needs. All of them have served on their executive branch as either a select person or a city councilor. They understand exactly where you're coming from and make sure all of us understand that. This is a copy of our fiscal year 14 budget as approved by the commissioners. It needs to go to approval of the advisory board, which is made up of the Board of Selectmen in each of the communities. I would suggest again that there's nothing like local control, that you here in the town of Hingham pride yourself on what you do for your residents and the services you provide. I would suggest as well that you should be very proud to be a part of Plymouth County, and we look forward to doing even more for you in the future.
Tom, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hoya Saxa.
Hoya Saxa.
Very, very good. Mr. Commissioner, would you care to introduce yourself to our public, please?
My name's Fred Hanley. I'm the Plymouth County Commissioner. I come from the town of Pembroke, and I've been on the job about 150 days.
Great. That's wonderful. Welcome to Hingham. We're nice to have you. Colleagues, any questions?
Tons of them, are you kidding?
But I'm going to ask you and be cognizant of the time.
I'm looking forward to looking at the list of services and spending some time with them and seeing if there is anything else that we could use that we don't. But a couple just general remarks from both the last presentation and this one. I want to commend all of you for digging in and admitting, things are not so good, but we're going to fix them. And we have a plan. For instance, all the audits that haven't been done. You now have a plan, you're catching up on them. I also want to commend you for the 6 bills, I think it was 6.
It was.
That have been filed, especially the one where you're trying to transfer the OPEB costs where the people are. So I look forward to investigating this. I've come in with an open mind. I haven't made up my mind yet, because it takes a lot of convincing, and you can ask a lot of people in this room about that. So I thank you very much for coming, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Armin. Mr. Healy, any?
It's 7:45. I'm going to stick to the agenda. I have questions, notwithstanding your fine presentations, but I'll keep them.
If it's convenient, Mr. Chair, and to the members, we welcome that type of question and your input. We get our best ideas from our boards of selectmen that are looking to innovations. Our boards are asking us to do a Plymouth County energy program, to do a Plymouth County waste management program, to do regional dredging, engineering services. We are looking at all of those things and welcome your participation in any that makes sense for you. So we are available. We This Board of Commissioners is extremely responsive. Whatever works for you, ask us to come back, come down and see us. We welcome that opportunity.
Well, thank you, Tom. I very much agree with my colleagues that we will do that. We have not made up our minds. We will continue to pursue. I've gotten input as a result of your last visit to us on issues and services that you provide that they'd like us to keep in mind. So the dialogue shall go on. So we appreciate it very much, and we will take it under advisement, and we will be back with you. Excuse me, I see a question from the floor from, would you state who you are, please, ma'am? This is
Laura Burns, 96 Hersey Street. I just wanted to say that I hope we'll have another chance to continue the discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
As you know, I represented Hingham on the Plymouth County Advisory Board for 4 years, representing the Board of Selectmen. Our representative to the Charter Commission is here, who represented Hingham and Hull very ably. We have some comments, some responses, things we'd like to say, so I hope we can do this again.
We will. Absolutely, we will. That was a great deal of information you gave us, and we will digest it and be back with you, I'm sure.
What's absolutely amazing is that I was able to do it in the time allotted.
That's fine. I have a question from the press.
Chief's got a question, too.
Do you see Deb had a question?
Was wondering, I'm just not clear on who makes a decision. Is it a ballot vote? Is that what you said? And what is the role of the selectmen in the decision?
The $64 question.
Do you want me to attempt to answer that, Mr. Chairman, if I
You
might?
can give your view.
I think there's some confusion about the process here. A lot of this germinated in another county where there's a community asking questions. It's always good to ask questions. Depending on what the town of Hingham is thinking and how they want to proceed, the process is very, very different. I would suggest, and certainly welcome any commentary, that any activity short of continuing and improving would require legislative involvement and from our state legislature.
That is my interpretation. I have one last question. Chief Duff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Mark Duff. I would just want to go on record that I would hate to lose the use of the Plymouth County fire plane this year, especially with all the debris that's come down from the various storms. The fire chiefs throughout Plymouth County are extremely concerned about the potential for serious brush fires. As you pointed out, 5,000 acres in Wampatuck, Bear Cove Park, numerous others. And it's a huge asset to us. And number two, I also believe you're on a junior fire setters program.
We do, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Tom, and thank all of you for coming with us this evening. We appreciate it very much, and we thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ted is the, I saw the police chief. Is he outside?
Yep, let me get him.
Get him? Thank you.
Yep. Are you gonna, did everybody get one?
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Did I give up? I thought I gave up last year.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
See you again. Thank you.
Say it again?
The next portion of our agenda is a happy time, if I may. Sad circumstances, but very proud of the people who have served Hingham and the Commonwealth very well. So I'd like to invite the police and fire chiefs to the table. And the folks at home will notice a number of police and fire personnel moving into the room. And if I may introduce Police Chief Mike Perino and Fire Chief Mark Duff. And I guess, Mike, if it's okay, I'll let seniority go first.
Definitely has more seniority.
Okay. So,
Well, I
thought we were bridging the gap here.
I was watching a John Wayne movie the other day, and they made reference to lustrums. So I'm into my 9th lustrum. if you know what that is.
Oh, well, I'm glad. Do you want me to explain who John Wayne is to everybody?
Thank you very much. I have two people here I want to recognize for their outstanding contributions to the sad event that occurred on the day of the explosions. One of them not be with us tonight because he's actually doing a EMS presentation in the state of Florida, along with his wife. And I have a feeling that what he learned as a result of this event is probably one of the topics he's discussing. And as I traditionally do, that's firefighter paramedic James Sheard. What I traditionally do, Mr. Chairman, is just read the commendations and let people draw their conclusions based on the way they're worded. So the following members are commended for their actions as a result of the Boston Marathon bombing event that occurred on April 15th, 2013, while off duty. The case of firefighter paramedic James Sheard. Firefighter paramedic James Sheard, along with his wife, Dr. Shannon Manzi, both who are part of the Massachusetts Disaster Medical Assistance Team, were stationed along the marathon route in Natick. When word reached them that their services were required at Children's Hospital for a mass casualty incident, they immediately reported to the hospital. While at the hospital, they participated in triage, organization of staff and resources, and work with Boston CMed. That's the radio system that diverts ambulances to the proper locations based on injuries and availability, and their ability to take on additional patients. Firefighter Sheard has participated in several other major incidents, including the events that occurred in Lower Manhattan on September 11th, 2001. Firefighter Sheard is commended for his actions. And the case of firefighter paramedic Caitlin Shinney, who was with us, where is she? Right here. Stand in front of these guys. There we go. Firefighter paramedic Caitlin Shinney was in the immediate vicinity of the Boston Marathon finish line when two explosions occurred as a result of an act of terrorism. With complete disregard for her own personal safety and an awareness that additional explosions were possible, firefighter Shinney immediately proceeded into the area of the explosions, the hot zone, identified herself as a firefighter paramedic, and began the process of triage and stabilizing patients. Her actions directly resulted in the saving of lives and the calming of patients who were severely injured. All of this was accomplished with very little EMS equipment in an extremely charged, stressful, and dangerous environment. Firefighter Shinney's actions went well beyond the call of duty and reflect the highest traditions of the American Fire Service. Firefighter paramedic Caitlin Shinney is highly commended for her actions. Do you want comments from them now or after the police, Mr. Chairman?
I'll wait for the police, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Chief Perine.
Chairman, this is 2 years I've been chief. This is the first time that I will be giving out commendation certificates to my officers. I would like to present the commendations to the following Hingham police officers: Lieutenant John Nikitis, Lieutenant David Jones, Sergeant David Hort, and Patrolman Jeffrey Kilroy. All of these officers are assigned to the Metropolitan Law Enforcement Council, which is a rapid response team made up of 42 communities. Within hours of the Boston Marathon bombing, these officers were on duty in Boston, participating in the command center, performing security for hospitals, security for infrastructure in Boston. They were part of the house-to-house search for the suspect number 2 in Watertown. They performed security for President Obama and Vice President Biden on their visits to Boston. Each of these officers performed dangerous and difficult and sometimes tedious tasks with discipline, dedication, and professionalism. All of these officers worked 12 to 16-hour shifts. I'm very proud of all these officers, as I know the town is. And on the certificates of commendation, Each one will read, "The Hingham Police Department commends you for your dedication and support in the aftermath of the Boston Marathon bombings on April 15, 2013. You displayed professionalism, dedication, and commitment to the difficult task at hand. This has been a challenging time for our country, but also a time of unity and strength. Because of your actions, peace and justice has been brought to the victims and their families." And so dated March 9th, 2013. So, thank you.
While Chief Perino is giving out the plaques to his officers, I think I speak on behalf of the entire town of Hingham when I not only commend you, but more importantly, thank you, because what you did on that very difficult and special day is only enhanced by the work you do for us every day. And knowing that we have people such as you in our staff, it just makes us all rest more comfortably at night. So I personally appreciate your efforts, and I know I speak for many in that who do. Selectman Lauder, any?
I'll echo what Bruce said, and I also want to make another comment to all of you young people who are at home and will be watching this tape. You constantly look for role models. You're looking in the wrong place. Don't look at your sports heroes. Don't look at your rock stars. We've got rock stars right over here, and especially young women. We've got Caitlin. We have another firefighter paramedic here. These are your role models. So thank you all very much for what you do.
Well said, Irma. Selectman Healy.
Lady and gentlemen, it's with great pride that I'm able to sit here and recognize you for what you probably did without thinking and reflexively, but confronting evil in the defense of our homeland is laudable in the extreme. I'm proud to have once worn the uniform you have on today, and I think this town is damn lucky to have you. So, well done. Thank you very much.
Let's give him. I understand you all get a year off with pay? Is that?
Remember who said that?
See, he always catches me. No, I just want to thank you all again, and I want to thank your two leaders because they exemplify as well the spirit of Hingham that you so admirably displayed in that terrible day. So thank you very much, and we'll see you around for sure. Thank you. We'd like to shake your hands if that's, we did wash them, so.
Sit down.
That's all right. It's all right. It's only on tape.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Congratulations. Very well done. Great.
Hi again. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Sandy,
I met him at Bay Point.
Never mind. Okay, what did we do? How'd we let everybody get away? When we come back, can we do this so Harry can go home?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Let's see if maybe,
We're going to do that right now.
Yeah.
Good. You're a note taker. You're a note taker. I see.
What?
Otherwise, I can't remember. That's it.
What was
Okay, no, he just said I'm a note taker.
Oh.
I am. Before we start our discussion on the sewer commission and the sewer wastewater, we have one procedural matter that I'd like to take care of, it so that a person that gets up very early every day can continue to do that. So, Harry Sylvester from the Department of Public Works.
Yeah, before you, we have the a contract through the consortium for pavement markings. We'd like you to consider engaging in contract with Markings Incorporated of Pembroke. I've worked with them in the past. It's been a number of years, but they've always done a very good job, and they're providing their services and doing their painting. And I'd just like you to consider approving this contract with them.
Okay. Selectman Louder?
Harry, is this one of the services, this South Shore Regional Services Consortium that the county provides, or this is a different consortium?
This isn't a county consortium. This is a South Shore Regional Consortium. And this is the only services that we contract with them. The rest is materials, such as gravels and things of that nature.
And only 2 people bid. Is that pretty normal?
Yeah, historically, you don't get a large number of bidders on municipal work. For example, just real quickly, the paving contract we put out to bid, only 2 contractors bid on it. The street surfacing, there's only 2, principal bidders. The equipment rental agreement, only 2 bidders. So it's with so many, different aspects of bidding a municipal work, for example, state qualifications, providing certified payrolls, insurances and bonds and things of that nature. It's an added expense to these contractors do municipal work, so there aren't a great deal of contractors bidding these type of things.
You would think otherwise, where this is a never-ending supply of work.
Well, a company that does municipal work has to do it by volume.
Okay.
And a private contractor could, doesn't have to pay the prevailing wage and, doesn't need bonds, and they can, price a job a lot less than, someone that would have to pay all these added fees when they, to do work.
Thank you.
Okay. Paul?
Harry, not to bust your chops or anything, but do we have enough paint in the budget for all the markings? I know that's something that comes up a lot.
We just might scrape by.
Okay, just check it.
We will have a line to follow, is on...
Red, white, and blue in front of Paul's house, maybe, if you...
Can you at least get it up to Paul's house?
Yeah, that's the important...
It's possible.
It is
Get
possible.
carried away.
Harry, how is this price-wise from previous years?
It's very competitive, very similar. These 2 companies, they compete each other all the time. They're the only 2 companies that bid the painting of localized towns that I can remember back 15, 20 years anyway. And they bid like 1/3 of a cent a foot, and, it's cut with a real fine, a knife as far as some of these pricing. So it was very competitive, and Markings has won the bid for the first time in, I think, 9 years.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Any questions from the public? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
That the board vote to sign a contract with Markings, Inc. for pavement markings in the amount of $63,000.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Harry.
you.
See you, Harry.
See you. Okay. The next part of our discussion, and it would really be more of, I would hope, an education, is deals with the subject of treating wastewater. This was something that the board had intended, and other boards who are engaged in the treating of wastewater had intended to do a year ago. And for a variety of reasons, it did not get done. But it was obvious to me as we went through the discussion at town meeting that as the Articles 32, 33, and 34, there was some considerable discussion about it, as well as some of the questions were raised were more along the lines of a lack of understanding. And I thought it would be helpful, and the purpose of this evening is to begin, and I emphasize begin, the process of dealing with how Hingham deals with the treatment of wastewater. And I thought I'd deal with this in a typical pilot fashion at 50,000 feet. And then the intent is that the various committees, and you'll see who they are, would take the time, assisted by our staff, and the staff being the town planner, the town engineer, the DPW superintendent, and our land use council, to put down in writing the guidelines under which each of these departments and boards operate to provide this very important service to you. So my intent is not for the selectmen to step into this role, but only since it crosses departmental lines that the selectmen make sure we bring all the pieces together that need to come together for this to effectively work. So I thought, as I said, I did this myself just so I got a better understanding of the issues. I had assistance from some of the people who are in the audience, Susan Murphy, Land Council, my friend from the Sewer Commission, Michael Salerno, and I see Kirk Schultz is here this evening from the Health Board, and Randy Sylvester's in the back, and one of our advisory committee members, Lizzie Eldridge. So, Betty, if I may have the next slide. Thank you. Back up one. We're missing one in the middle. Where is it? There's.
Oh, actually, I think it's probably, no. Bruce?
Yep.
That's how you have it. That's how she has it here. Or do you want that one?
Yeah, that one. Do number three.
Number three first.
No, she should.
There's one missing there.
Yep, she's missing one. Let me. There's one missing. I apologize to the audience for that. My first slide said, assume you have land to develop, meaning it's a blank piece of property that you just purchased, or which is more common in Hingham, assume you may have an environmental issue, something on land that you already own that needs attention, and then assume you want to figure out what is the process for dealing with these various uses. You do need utilities, and the utilities you do need are electric, cable, phone, internet, etc. Whether your property is a residence or a business, but first you need water from aquarium or a private well, if that is the case, and a way to treat the wastewater that is produced. So I think I lost my slide, or do you have it, Ted? Thank you. What a team. Wastewater is managed in two ways. You either do it on-site or off-site. And the on-site options are a septic system or a treatment plant. But I would add to this, there are, and I guess it's a version of treatment plant, some communities, I have friends who live over in the Susquehanna, off the Susquehanna River in New York, and they have what I would call their own water treatment plant on their property, comes in a mini version. That's how they deal with it. The off-site options that we have are connection to a municipal water sewer system, and in some cases that connection could take the form of a treatment plant. Next, please. So who guides you in this effort of dealing with this? The very important first discussion is the planning board, and the planning board's role, because as my colleague to my left has reminded me, one of the key issues in sewer and wastewater treatment is the issue of development. And the planning board's decision that historically and traditionally sewer can lead to more dense development, and sometimes that might not be what a community or a town might want. Offsetting that is the need for revenue that sometimes a sewer development, a formal process could permit. Occasionally in this process, you need to go to the zoning board of appeals or conservation or the historic commission and commissions to get it done. And certainly in some cases, particularly if you have land in present, the Board of Health would weigh in on what that issue might be. And then lastly, the Sewer Commission, which deals not just with the capacity of our systems, but more importantly with its future capability and managing the process for getting it there. What guides the boards and commissions in this endeavor? Well, there are guidelines, and some of them at the state level and some of them at the town level. There are Massachusetts general laws that lead to this decision process, and then there are as well some town bylaws and zoning bylaws. But critically in the process are departmental practices and procedures. How do the various departments deal with the issue? And how do they guide, if you as an applicant wanted to come to the table, what are the procedures or practices that you'd have to follow? And more importantly, what are the standards that you have to meet if in fact you want to pursue this area? And the question that came to my mind is, in this very complicated process, are they all written down? Now, traditionally and historically, they may be through the various processes of the decisions. That is one mechanism. The ZBA, for example, always follows that. In their case-by-case decisions, they write down, creating precedent. But in a subject as complicated as this, we had wanted to accomplish this objective of starting to write down the decisions. In Massachusetts general law, there are two most common sewer assessment methods. One is the unit method, and the other is the frontage method. The definitions of how we use those, what constitutes a unit, and what constitutes the frontage calculation, needs clarification in the sense that they need to be defined. They're there, traditionally they have been used, but sometimes it hasn't been clear to the writer, to the applicant. The current practice that we now follow is, regardless of whether you're in the North or South Sewer District, that we sometimes, or we regularly, survey the neighborhood. And depending on the nature of the application, that decision could be a majority, could be 2/3, sometimes it could be 4/5. But the definition for those, while the Sewer Commission is certainly capable and able to write down those decisions, sometimes it's not clear necessarily to the applicant. And then once they decide the method that they're going to use, that they declare that method to apply and then decide with detail. Now, in this case, it's important for the applicant to know that in a sewer connection or even in some septic systems, it varies by location and by location within the town. So it's important that we understand that the particular location, why a particular methodology was employed for that to happen. And then the third issue that has to be decided is the calculation for the betterment, which not only needs, if it's a sewer, not only the building and construction of the sewer, but also the connection fees and how they would be employed. And what happens if someone doesn't want to connect to a sewer that's recently been discussed or been approved? How would that happen? And lastly, one of the issues that's come up of late before we get to the town meeting approval process is a historical tradition in determining under what circumstances would the town pay. Will it pay at all, or would it pay for the vast majority? And there is that broad spectrum that could be decided in this proposal. And then finally, all of that work having been done, as we just experienced a month or so ago, we need the approval of town meeting to decide and approve finally this process. My thought is that as a result of this work, which I hope would be led not only by the various boards and commissions that I mentioned in terms of their approving the documents, but more importantly, that our staff would do the work in helping them frame what their practices are and be able to publish a document or a handbook that would now describe the guidelines that permit the enablement of a sewer. Ted? And then sometimes, because as I said, every situation could be unique, there may be issues that need clarification, and some of those have happened over the years, and we need to make sure we have a history of those and put those down. And then there have been disagreements between boards or commissions as to how someone might take a particular land situation and come up with two different conclusions. We'd like to be able to resolve those historical differences, but more importantly, try to deal with, going forward, the new issues as to how they should be clarified. And in that vein, there have been some historically, and those of us who have studied this issue, that this goes back to the 40s and 50s, but more significantly in the 1983, there were bylaw changes that were made that unfortunately haven't been fully recorded at the state level, and there may be other issues that need to be resolved for this purpose. And then lastly, we need to clarify under what are the standards we will employ in each of the sewer districts for either sewering or not sewering, or for finding some other course of action, but having standards established that are clear to the citizenry as to what we're doing. So, my proposal would be that the various boards and commission, aided ably by the staff, would proceed, and won't hold this 2-month guideline, but report to back to the town in the next 2 to 3 months, if you will, to tell us what's the status of what have they investigated as they engaged in this process. And in that vein, as I want to reiterate, that we would utilize the services of the Director of Community Planning, the town engineer, and the DPW superintendent who was here this evening, as well as the Land Use Council. This is big work, but it is something that I think would be helpful to all of the groups involved. And as I said, it was an effort we wanted to start last year and didn't complete, but we'd like to do it this year before we got too much further down the road. Now, in the process of going through this, if I could on the next slide, Ted, there is some current work in progress. So I'll turn it over, if I may, to the town administrator, if you would.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Working in conjunction with all the folks that you've mentioned here, the Director of Community Planning, Town Engineer, the DPW Superintendent, the Land Use Council, but most importantly with the Sewer Commission and working with the Chairman, Michael Salerno, we came up with a core amount of things that we want to do. Recognizing that for the past 2 years, what we've been doing is merging two organizations, which I think now, as we're 2 years into it, looks like it's been pretty successful. The work in progress for this next few months is to deal with the North Street sewer issue. And we know that there are some odor control issues and there's some issues with the pipe. And we have a variety of solutions that we want to talk about. And the commission is anxious to engage the public in that discussion. We have the Ship and Cottage Street sewer construction project that was approved at town meeting. We have a betterment policy guideline that we want to establish. So that, as you indicated, this stuff is in writing and people have access to it either through the internet, through our webpage, or a physical document. And then lastly, one of the primary goals of the Board of Selectmen, the expansion in South Hingham and the South Hingham wastewater treatment and collection system with the acquisition of the Avalon Bay property. We will now begin the process of designing that collection system and the wastewater treatment plant.
And quite frankly, it's that last one that caught my attention, because having an understanding of how each of the boards and commissions makes their decisions, it's important that when we proceed with that South Hingham wastewater treatment and collection system, that we understand fully what those ramifications might be. And coming to the table is,
I'm sorry, Betty was asking me something. I'm sorry.
okay, distractions, okay. Always try to break the mind of the speaker. That's it, all right. But anyway, that's the fourth item there is most important for us because we want to make sure we get that right. That's a unique opportunity, but we want to make sure that it goes in transparent to the town at large. I want to thank Michael Salerno, who has been very helpful. Michael has a new job. He has new family, and we kind of keep him away from all those things by involving him in this very difficult subject. But I think I thank you publicly for that support, and perhaps you have some comments, or
Well, I definitely thank you. I guess Michael Salerno, Chairman of the Sewer Commission, 59 Cross Street. Definitely thank you, Mr. Chairman, for getting this underway. As a lot of folks know, we have attempted this and have some good research done working with Town Real Estate Council as well as other concerned folks in the town. We definitely look forward to working with the community as a whole. Some boards were mentioned up there that we'd like to work with. We'd also like to work with concerned citizens who feel like they have something to bring to the table or offer, and really get this squared away, so next town meeting, we have some great policies set in place. So thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any other comments? Kirk? Just... You can adjust that microphone. Oh, bend over. Or you could kneel, but that's not a good political picture. So,
Kirk Schultz, Chairman of the Board of Health. I want to first of all welcome Paul. Congratulations on the election, and appreciate this. Is my first time speaking before you as Selectman. Bruce, you and I have been together. I've been before you, and Irma, I haven't been here since you've done your fine work on the Board of Selectmen in the past year. So, welcome the two new people to my face, and Bruce, thank you for having me back. I was involved with the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Committee from its inception. Matter of fact, I'm the only person that attended every meeting, and the only person who, from the elected town boards, stayed with the committee throughout. So I'm intimately familiar with this particular issue. As you all should know, the issue of wastewater management is a health issue. And the ideal situation always is to have on-site systems. And the reason is, when you have a large collection system, if you're going to have a mistake there, it's a big mistake. And you just have to think back to what happened in Hull a few months ago, that when their system went down, it was a colossal problem. Now, when you have one or two homes that have their system go into failure, it's not a big deal. So when we look at South Hingham, this is a significant thing that we're doing. Second, the reason that we see wastewater treatment plants along the coast is for the prospect of there being a problem, that now we can deposit of this material someplace where we're not going to have to deal with it, the ocean. In Hingham, South Hingham, this is going to be something that we have to manage on-site. This is a land-based treatment plant. And so if there were to be a problem there, it's going to be 38 trucks a day that have to deal with that particular effluent and manage it. So we're doing something we've never done before. Typically, we're managing pipes. We're taking wastewater and we're shipping it out to the MWRA, or we're shipping it to Hull. Now we're managing this in the town itself. So I saw the list of the entities involved with that. I hope that you would add the Board of Health. I think
you're on there.
That was one of mine.
Okay. I think that we have expertise. I know that Bruce Kaplan is the only person in town that has a specific expertise with the wastewater management for when his time in Stoughton. And so it would be invaluable to have him.
That's an oversight on my part. It should be on there.
That was going to be one of the
That's
things
okay.
I brought up.
Yeah, no question you should be, because you have certainly in the North Sewer District, there's a role, and clearly as you get down into South Hingham, there's a role as well.
Yeah, South Hingham being the more significant. As far as the North Sewer District, we looked at this. The comprehensive wastewater management program was great. We had a planning board member, and we had a selectman member, Board of Health, Conservation, member from the Sewer Commission, Michael served for a number of those months that we had there, plus members of the public. And we talked about this thing about development and house size and where the planning of the town was going to go with this, along with the health issues and the environment. So that type of comprehensive approach is essential for what we're doing.
No.
So I just would like to offer my assistance. I hope I can become included on the particular,
You are.
which I hear I am,
Yeah.
and look forward to getting,
In
there
fact,
we
you're-
go. Look forward to getting started with that. You guys are great. Yeah. So I appreciate and answer any
Well,
questions.
you were paying attention, and that's the most important thing.
I was paying
That-
attention, and I appreciate the assistance that you gave me at town meeting. I was looking forward to putting an amendment up before the before town meeting, and it worked out that the best way to do it was to approach this in a comprehensive manner. So I
that's what we're
it wasn't
about.
necessary to get up there and
This
do
is
that.
not a power grab by.
Never
any-
is.
Never is. This is about getting something done for the citizens. So
Thank you, Mr.
I thank
Chairman.
you. Thank you, Kirk, for your, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance. My colleagues haven't seen this except in a handout, so I'd welcome any other comments or modifications, and thank you for picking that up, Irma.
That was going to be my one.
There it is.
The
There-
other,
There it is, right there. Board of Health. That's where it is. I
in
knew
the-
I didn't forget you.
You never do.
I never, Kurt, how can I ever?
I got your phone.
I know.
In the current work in progress, where does the 1985 bylaw get addressed that wasn't properly? Go to, I guess, slide 15.
It would be in the betterment policy,
The better, okay.
because that's really what the 83 statute was talking about in part. And it'll also be in the betterment policy guidelines, correct.
And I don't want to take too much time this evening, except that when I spent a number of hours going through this with more people than some I never met before, the issue is, there's a history here, as I said at the beginning, that goes back to the 40s and 50s. And that's what we're trying to get under one roof here, to make sure that it's clear. While there are many people who do understand this in its totality, I don't know that the average citizen does. And when I stood at town meeting, and I have the advantage of looking out into the audience, and I saw glazed over eyes when we got to this subject, because it wasn't completely clear, and it should be. We're asking them to vote, and the more knowledgeable they are, the better the vote. So that's what prompted this. So.
As part of this appreciative inquiry, will whoever chairs this be looking at what other towns do? And is there another method other than the unit method and the frontage method?
Yeah, let me ask.
Oh, sure.
Town, if you don't mind, town council. Yeah.
A little shorter than Kirk. Susan Murphy, Real Estate Counsel for the town. There are other methods. There's really two main methods, which is the uniform unit method. And then there's another method that the frontage method is most common, but it has three subparts, and it's either frontage, area to a certain depth, or a combination of frontage and area. But the most common, as the slide said, are the uniform unit method or the frontage method. Last year after town meeting, when the questions arose about synthesizing all the policies, et cetera, there was a coordinated effort between myself, Mary Power, Katie Lacey, and an intern that had been, was working, I believe, in maybe the sewer office. An intern had been engaged, and there was a lot of pulling together of information, but between the transitions between sewer and DPW, and the intern then didn't work out. She left without really accomplishing anything. And then Katie's departure, there was a kind of a gap. So we have a lot of information, raw data, including information from other towns, which we will now bring back to the surface and supplement with all the parties that Ted has mentioned, and start moving forward.
Who is the handbook for? It's
Well,
not clear to me.
Right.
It's for the community.
Yeah.
But who's going to own it?
It's going to be the sewer commission. It's going to be their policies.
It's a sewer commission product, but it's going to be for the residents, business owners who may have to deal with a sewer issue on their property.
And the question, I think Kirk was right. They have a very significant role to play, and but this is, at the end of the day, it is a sewer department issue to manage. So they can't do it alone. They do it with interfacing with the other departments, and that's what we're trying to bridge. Okay, Mr. Hugh.
I was only going to add, it might be helpful to add the kind of impacts that a commercial business such as a restaurant might have to meet above and beyond the residential owner.
You know,
As part of that.
that's a good suggestion, because as we got into the North Street examination of that pipe, I'm told that that is one of the major issues dealing with that. And Michael, if you want to come up and talk further about it.
Again, Michael Salerno, 59 Cross Street, Chairman of the Sewer Commission. So I believe it was in August, the Sewer Commission adopted a formal FOG, fats, oils, and grease program to address the restaurants specifically in the downtown area. That is enforced by the Board of Health, so we did come up with the policy, ran it by Bruce Capman, and then Bruce brought it to his board. They gave their blessing. So that has started to be enforced. There's certainly things that we've encountered that we didn't anticipate encountering, and we're trying to work with our businesses in the downtown area and with our partners over in the Board of Health to make sure that that isn't an issue going forward. So there is a formal FOG policy, and just like we formed that with the Board of Health, we look forward to working with as many boards as we really need to get as much input as possible for this policy. So, thank you.
Michael, maybe for you and/or Kirk, will this require the restaurants in the older sections of town or the more established restaurants to change their way of doing business? Okay.
Yeah, no, not at this time. They're all required to have a certain grease trap, and that's what the Board of Health is currently inspecting.
Okay. Any other questions? Carol?
Just for clarification for what I'm writing for the citizens, I'm not sure, like, is this called a group? Is it a study group made up of town officials? Or what is it called?
I think we would characterize it as, really the sewer department taking the lead on something and bringing along the rest of the staff, and including the Board of Health as purveyors over the septic issues in each property. So I think really we're just talking about organizing, local government here in Hingham to address this issue.
So just officials will be coming up with
Correct.
the guidelines
Correct.
for citizens in businesses?
That's correct. That's correct. Okay. Mr. Hersey, by the way, you've been taking pictures?
Yes, I have.
Do you have permission?
Nobody else asked for permission. Why should I ask them permission?
Nobody else is taking pictures.
They were.
They were.
Oh, they were, absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't single
You should.
me out. Don't single me out.
Well-
I don't like it.
Well, that's
Hope
too
you got
bad.
my good side.
Yeah.
Don't get me going on that.
He's just taking, it's your tie, Paul. He wants pictures of the tie.
Question I'm asking is North Street Sewer. What is wrong with the North Street Sewer? It's a problem down there.
I think we've been told that not been told, repeatedly, we've had complaints of odor control issues, and we have a couple proposed solutions. I believe the Sewer Commission is going to be discussing this in some public meetings, speaking with the citizens that are concerned about it, and trying to go through the proposed solutions to those problems.
Okay. Is the public going to know exactly what happened down there? Is that going to come out? What the reason is why we have a problem down there? Is that going to come out in the public? There must be a reason why. It was just done 3 years ago.
There are two issues, if I may, Ted. There are two issues that have come publicly to my attention. One is the odor, and the second is that there is perceived to be a blockage in the sewer pipe that occurred after Cashman backfilled when the installation of that pipe. Now, the question is, what role does that play? It's not clear to me, although there have been looks taken at that. But there was also an issue on the odor, and there are a number of issues surrounding the odor that have to be addressed as well as determine cause.
And I think I can answer the question this way, John. The solutions that the engineers have suggested to us will speak to what they perceive to be the causes.
Yeah. My question is, was there somebody that was supposed to oversee this when it was being backfilled? And
I think we'll get to the blame game a little bit after we figure out what the solutions are.
blame game. Thank you. I'm all done. Thank you very much.
Well, Michael, will we be doing that here when we talk about the North Street sewer? Because I am finding that fascinating, And I want to recognize the good work of Randy and his people and his supervisors. They've used some very interesting techniques to identify the variety of things that may or may not be wrong. And it's been fascinating watching Randy and the people go through this in a very analytical way. Never mind who did it, John, we'll get to that. But what is wrong, and truly what is wrong? Not just kind of a 50,000 foot, but I'm very impressed with what they've been doing. He's been teaching me a lot too, which I bug everybody when I find something interesting to follow. So he deserves a lot of kudos.
There have been a number of people who have gone into this that goes way back, and to 2006 and 1983, as we mentioned, and others. So there are things that need to be addressed, no question about it. And the solutions are also alternatives that have to be quantified and expensed out, and we're looking at those as well. This is not a short-term resolvable Friday afternoon. It's a project that's going to take us some time and a lot of people. One last question, Kurt, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the concerns I have is with this process that we should consider this a wastewater component. So I understand that the town, this is the way we did it with the wastewater committee. We looked at it from a comprehensive manner. And one of the sections within the wastewater management that I wrote was section 6, which has recommendations for the town to enact over time. One of them was the planning board. You have 3 of them, a couple for the sewer commission. And we haven't seen those policies come forward, but I expect that we will. So I would like to see that we have a more comprehensive approach to this. One of the disappointments I have is this meeting here. I only found out about it a couple hours ago. So where I wasn't invited, it was kind of a strange situation there. So as far as the fog regulations that you heard about, the Board of Health is the only entity that has the authority under state statute to mandate regulations. None of that, we have Title V. And so we're intimately involved in this particular issue. I think that we should have more of a comprehensive team approach for this, as opposed to the Sewer Commission really taking the lead on it. It's a wastewater issue. We need to have, a mutual, along with the Planning Board for Development, a mutual understanding in here, and not having a one entity kind of dictate the terms, because that's not going to work. So I just would throw that up there.
I didn't say anybody was dictating the terms. I said the responsibility was starting with the Sewer Commission to put it down, because they are the ones that put forth sewer articles. So you obviously have a role, but Michael has graciously stepped forward, as he did last year, to help us deal with this issue. And there are disagreements. There's no question there are disagreements, but we'll deal with those as they come. That's why I say this will not be an easy resolution. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. And let us move on. We have a number of other issues to deal with Town Council. The Recreation Park Drive.
Susan?
Susan? Yeah.
Get a little more water while
Oh, I would have done that. You can't do that. You're a first year.
Would you introduce yourself? I know who you are, but
Susan Murphy, Real Estate Counsel to the town. I am here tonight because the closing for the acquisition of the Avalon parcels, which was approved by town meeting, is scheduled for May 22nd. And in advance of that, we have a number of logistical hurdles we just have to jump over. The one before you tonight is a motion that I believe Betty's provided to you, which would, because the town meeting vote authorized but did not require the Board of Selectmen to acquire these parcels on behalf of the town. So this is the vote of the town, of the board, to actually vote to acquire the parcels and to sign the documents, pay all sums that are due, et cetera. So this is the overall umbrella, almost corporate authorization type of vote for the transaction to move forward. There will be the deeds, which we now have in good shape, and I've had approved. The sellers prepared them, I reviewed them and revised them, and they've now been approved by the title insurance company. So those are all set to go, so you have those in draft form in front of you. Those will need to be signed by at least 2, but I recommend all 3 members of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
But we did incorporate into the motion of the vote to authorize the board or the chair on its behalf to sign all other documents, just because from an efficiency standpoint, there will be a good number of documents, and it might make sense for the chair to just sit down and, next week, it'll be sometime next week when the documents are final, and just sign them all up. And that's what we've done in the past, is have the chair authorize, so that Betty doesn't need to try to track down all 3 if a last-minute kind of document gets tweaked or changed or needs to be signed.
Okay.
So that's where we are. I've been working with all 3 sellers, counsel and counsel for Avalon. Everybody's on the same page, working very cooperatively. Things seem to be moving slowly. I've been working with Jean Montgomery and Sue Nickerson as well, to just make sure that the funding will be in place on time. So right now, all clear
ready to
sailing right now.
Okay. Any questions, Paul?
None.
And when the chair signs, Paul and I will get copies, right?
Yeah, you're going to get, once the
Okay.
closing happens, I will provide Betty with a full binder that has all the documents, plus we now have a service at my office where we can put everything on disk as well, so you can get it in disk form if you like as
Beautiful.
well, both hard
Yes.
copy and on disk. So you will have every single piece of paper related to this transaction shortly after it goes to record.
Okay.
Super.
Okay.
Shall I make a motion?
Yeah, I think, no questions from the audience? No. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Make a motion that the Board of Selectmen, as authorized under Article 22 of the 2013 Annual Town Meeting, purchase the 4 parcels of land located off Recreation Park Drive, Hingham, Massachusetts, more particularly described in 3 deeds, the deeds, to be delivered by J.F. White Contracting Company, Southgate Realty Trust, and Creshingham Trust, the sellers, respectively, in accordance with the terms of a certain purchase and consent agreement dated March 14th, 2013, by and among the town, the sellers, and Avalon Bay Communities Incorporated, and that, subject to and upon satisfaction of the terms and conditions of said agreement, the board or the chairman of the board on its behalf execute, accept, authorize, and/or deliver as applicable the deeds, the purchase price under the agreement, and any and all other documents, payments, and closing costs related thereto, and to take any and all other actions as may be required in order to consummate this transaction in accordance with said agreement and the town meeting authorization.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. The Beale Street Regulatory Agreement?
I have it in my briefcase. You have that in front of you. That was a document that was signed at the time of the closing with the Housing Trust and Craftsman for the project on Beale Street. Because of the deadlines for the closing, it had been executed by the trust as the seller and the buyer, but with the understanding that once DHCD reviewed it, they might have some comments. In fact, they do. There are mostly small tweaks. The one exception being there's a provision in there that the town can request an audit of the project costs, and DHCD has always historically capped the cost that the town could push on to the developer at $5,000, which should be more than sufficient if it was ever necessary, which it often is not necessary to do such an audit. So I found nothing in the proposed changes that were adverse to the town. So, I would say if they're agreeable to the board, they would need the board to vote to approve the changes and then to re-execute the agreement.
Okay.
I make a motion to sign the revised regulatory agreement for the property at 80 Beale Street.
All right. hold the motion.
I'll
You have-
second it.
Second it,
But then I have a question.
Go ahead.
The piece in there, and I was looking for the red line version, the paragraph in there that talks about Hingham is part of this very expansive
Yep.
unit, how does that impact what we know as Hingham preference?
Okay, well, there's two different things.
Does it?
The areas are determined by HUD in Washington. And then they're also further broken down by county. So the document originally said Plymouth County, but DHCD changed it because Plymouth County is really just a subpart of the larger district. So, in fact, what it does, it really goes to how you set either purchase price or rent, if it was a rental community. And the fact that Hingham is part of a larger community actually assists in the affordable price, because it was just based on Hingham income, the prices probably would be much more inflated. So that's really just used for that. On the local preference is really a completely separate issue. Is
It
that
is,
what you're asking?
okay.
It's a
Yeah.
separate issue. DHCD has become very strict and narrow in its willingness to accept local preference. Their regulations, which they passed a few years ago, have very strict requirements with respect to even allowing local preference, in which the town and together with the developer will have to write a letter to DHCD justifying local preference. This has been done in the last couple of 40B projects that have come through in the town. So I spoke to Tim White about this yesterday.
Yep.
And I asked him whether or not the Housing Trust and the developer were going to follow through with the steps to go, to file the letter, make the case. And we do have a form of this now because we've done it in the past. And he assured me that they would be submitting that to a DHCD. However, he believes that going forward, he sees DHCD eventually prohibiting local preference. So as long as we can do it, we're going to keep trying.
What I was surprised at learning about the lottery and the local preference, there is, DHDC still gets in there, because if you
Yes.
don't hit certain minority criteria, they will add people into the pool.
Right.
In the local preference lottery. And just for the home people watching at home, the affordable units will be selling at $185,000 with a condo fee of $225 a month.
Right.
So,
Good, okay.
yep, I'm good.
Okay. All right, I have the motion already. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We had one other land use item, which has to do with the Article 40, which was negotiated just prior to town meeting, and we have a new selectman who was not party to those discussions. He's asked me if we could hold that till he has a chance to review it, which I would expect would not be too long. So we'll table that for the moment. We also have another issue, another vote. As Irma and I recall, but Laura Burns had accepted on the board's behalf to serve as a chairman to deal with the issue of special education funding, and she helped lead a special education funding work group. She wanted to put forward to this board 3 proposals for legislative action, and she sent copies, I believe, to each of you, and I put them in your folders this evening, but for the folks at home. The work group has come back with this report. One, to change the circuit breaker formula to include transportation costs, which, as you know, or may recall, those of you who study the school budgets know that is a considerable expense in some cases for the town. Secondly, to change the circuit breaker formula so that past a certain high cost of out-of-district placements, the cost would be borne by the state instead of by the individual town where the student happens to reside. That would be of assistance and help minimize the movement of students around and across districts. And the third would be to change the funding mechanism so that at least the cost of tuition for out-of-district placements be paid prospectively before the school year begins, rather than the current system where school districts must front the costs and be paid a year later. And that's to help close a gap that, as we all know, that comes after the budget is voted, and then they have to deal with it before they get reimbursed by the state. I think these are reasonable proposals, but if you haven't had a chance to look at these, or if you have any opinions, I'd welcome your comments on the three recommendations.
Do you want to wait till next time to vote on them or endorse them? I think this is a good start. I'd really hope the group would broaden their scope here and look into how the process of identifying students, and is there a better way to do that?
Okay.
But this is a good start.
It's a start. I think this was to get to the legislative session, which is what they wanted to get on the table. That's a lengthy process.
And the other thing that it doesn't, and I remember we talked about this a few years ago, to put some kind of governing mechanism on these special schools, because a number of years ago, DOT got a bill in the middle of the year for an additional $30,000 when they upped the tuition on one child. So monitoring these special schools so that their rate of tuition increase is managed.
Okay. Well, that's something I'm sure Laura will hear and back. What she was looking for is the endorsement for us for these three proposals to move forward. So if I have your, if I could have your consensus, I guess, I'll just take a consensus. If that's, I'll take it at this point, and we'll let it go at that. So Laura, if you're watching on the computer.
Good work.
Good work. We appreciate that. And in that vein, I would also entertain, since they expect this work to go on for about the next 4 to 6 months, Laura has said she would be happy to stay with it on our behalf if we would appoint her as our designee to continue leading the effort on the working group.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we have one last piece of business, a temporary liquor license. Let's see, whose turn is it? Yours?
His.
Laura? His?
I think.
No,
Or is it mine?
It's yours. Yep,
Okay.
Yep. he did
I
Laura.
make a motion to approve a temporary liquor license for Kim Luke on behalf of the Silent Chef for a fundraiser for the Campus of the Caring, 86 Turkey Hill Lane, on June 15th, 2013.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That concludes our agenda for the evening. We do have, however, a planned executive session, and I would entertain a motion for a roll call for executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate litigation and labor negotiations. So, would you do that?
I move to adjourn to executive session for purposes of discussing strategy for real estate negotiations, litigation, and labor negotiations, because discussions of these matters in open session would have a detrimental effect of the position of the town.
Second. Or aye.
No, second?
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 Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Healy?
Aye.
Aye. Ms.
Aye.
Lauder? Aye. Mr. Rebuffo? Aye. Okay.
We're not returning.
And we are not returning. Thank you all very much, and we appreciate your attendance, and we'll see you. Our selectmen meetings, one point of, Betty, we have, the next selectmen's meeting is scheduled for May 23rd, but your selectmen are not going to be quiet, so we have meetings.
We have a meeting next Monday night to interview people on talent bank interviews. And then budget reviews, third quarter budgets are being heard on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings.
That's right. And then we have interviews as well on the 15th and interviews on the 20th.
I don't think the
No,
15th has been filled. I
15th.
think it's
The
the
15th?
20th.
Just the 20th, 13th and the 20th.
13th and the 20th right now.
I hope
Oh,
it's
who
not
was
the
it?
15th.
Was it you who couldn't make somebody couldn't make the 15th?
Right.
That was a question. All right, then we will have a third meeting, I understand, for interviews, date yet to be determined. Okay. Thank you all very much, and have a good evening.